What is happening, everybody out there in the big bad World Wide Web? I am super excited to introduce the 10th episode of the Listen to Keith Harkin podcast. Before I get there, though, I want to do a bit of house cleaning. I want to introduce to you guys my company, Glack House, Glackhouse, and for all my American listeners, Glack House. Glack House is a weddings and events space here in Donegal in Ireland. We have beautiful cabins. We can throw parties, weddings, events, concerts, whatever you want. Our doors will be opened again July 20th, 2020. We will be accepting our bookings and guests, and we would love to have all you people out there come and stay with us. Also, if you're really enjoying these podcasts and all the free content that I post online, please check out my Patreon page, patreon.com/listen to Keith Harkin. It is my Patreon community that helps me fund everything that I do online. They help me make decisions on who I have on my podcasts, what songs I sing, and even stuff that I post daily. I'm very grateful for my Patreon community. They're awesome, and it's a great fun thing for people to be part of. Now, back to business. Episode number 10 on the Listen to Keith Harkin. This guy is a special person. American Idol winner, 5th season. He is the host and creator of State Plate on the television in the States. He is a restaurateur, a kick-ass singer, an amazing harp player, and an absolute sweetheart. Ladies and gentlemen, my friend, Taylor Hicks.
Taylor, baby.
What's happening?
Taylor just sipping a whiskey out of an espresso cup. I thought I would have a wee drink. I haven't had a drink in about a week, so cheers to you.
You know what? Hang on, I'm gonna go get a beer.
Yeah. Get a beer. Get a beer.
30A is a good beer. Hold on. I'll have a beer with you, Keith.
Yeah, buddy.
Obviously you can edit this, right?
Dude.
Or is it just live?
Just let your freak flag throw. There's no editing. I don't get paid enough to edit it. I don't get paid anything to edit it.
Oh, Keith, what's happening, man?
Cheers to you, brother.
Cheers from one continent to another.
Yes, my man. What's happening? Where you at?
I'm actually in Orange Beach, Alabama.
Orange Beach, Alabama.
This is actually a place where I grew up. I had one of my first gigs here at a place called the Flora-Bama Lounge and Package. It's right on the Florida-Alabama line. It started out as a little liquor store, and then they ended up turning it into a little bar in the back. Then they built a middle stage and then a tent stage, and now, I mean, there's probably about 4,000 or 5,000 people that go through that place a day.
No way.
They have and it's just old school. It's like Gillies in Texas. I don't know if you've ever been to Gillies in Texas. If you think of like what a roadhouse bar.
Yeah.
Looks like, feels like, in the southern states, like there wasn't any chicken wire at any point, but it was very, it's very close to that. But a lot of great singers and songwriters come down here, and they do a thing called the Frank Brown International Songwriting Festival, and it's a lot of songwriters from all different kinds of all different kinds of walks of life, all different kinds of music, but it's just this really crazy roadhouse. Everybody has a good time. The vibe, I got my first gig there when I was 18. So basically the way that the bar works is it was copied off. There was a bar in New York City called The End, and
right.
Everybody had, at one point in time, everybody had 1 hour on, 1 hour off, 1 hour on, 1 hour off. So when I grew up playing the club, you would play for an hour, and then you would take off for an hour, and then you would come back on for another hour.
That means you'd be smashed come the end of the gig.
The whole place gets rowdy. I mean, there are more bras and panties that are hung over wire in that club. I mean, it's
Amazing.
just a play like where you just walk in, and there's people. It's pandemonium. I mean, they have so what they're really famous for is this. It's this. So a mullet is a type of haircut, but it's also a fish that's indigenous to the area.
Yeah, you get mullets here in Ireland too.
Do you really?
Yeah.
Wow, that's cool. Nobody would have ever thought that. I'll have to tell some people that. You do? Yeah.
Yeah, they're weird. They're a hard fish to catch though. Like they don't really. You have to like foil hook them. They're a weird fish to catch. Big mullet, as in like they're pretty big and they've got big super silver fish, big scales.
Yeah. Yep. Mullet. Yeah. So mullets are, man, they run through all the waters down here. And so they got this big idea, when this little lounge and package was probably no bigger than 15 seats, that one of them, a couple of the drunk guys from the bar would go out into the sand and throw a dead mullet to see how long they could throw it. But it's interesting because the club actually is on the Florida-Alabama line.
Right.
So basically you could buy lotto tickets in Florida, right? And then so you couldn't buy lotto tickets in Alabama. So technically the little bar and liquor store was basically predicated on the fact that you could go and get your lotto tickets and you could get a bottle of whiskey. So
amazing.
This mullet toss, it has gone from like 40 years ago, it's gone from like 10 drunk guys out on the beach throwing mullet to where the beach is lined with probably 125,000 people.
What?
All along the beach. And there's different classes, okay? There's different flights of people who actually know how to throw a mullet. So all the mullet is dunked. They're all in like these garbage cans of water.
Right.
So there's a technical aspect of throwing a mullet.
How do you throw a mullet?
Well, some people...
Is it like overarm, or do you swing it like a bat and let go?
So it doesn't really matter. Like some people will fold it and dunk it in the water and then throw it because it's like it's because the heavier it is, the further it'll go.
This sounds like my kind of festival.
Oh my God, you would love it. I mean, it's called the interstate. It's the Flora-Bama interstate mullet toss. And
where is that?
Like, it's in Orange Beach. It's like literally not even. Oh, when is it? It's usually in April. It's in like mid-April. And listen, I tell people, there's a lot of mullet haircuts and there's a lot of people throwing mullet, and that's just, the club, that's just kind of the way that the club started. I mean, they have big concerts. It's kind of it's like a barefoot bar, it's just kind of like this sandy, like roadhouse,
amazing.
Lots of good music, lots of different stages. The musicians there are 1 hour on, 1 hour off. And that's where I kind of learned to play music. So that, I came back, obviously I went through a tornado in Nashville in my house, and that kind of pushed me south in Birmingham. And then the pandemic happened. And then like they even pushed me further south, because obviously we're out of work as musicians, right? And I think if I go any further south, then I'll end up in Mexico. And I don't know if I want to go to Mexico. I think I like it here.
I know, man. It's a straight, like, it's funny you're saying, like, for any musicians out there, I always feel like the real musicians, and I'll probably get shot for saying this, but whatever. The real musicians, when you play along with someone, whether they grew up becoming really good in their bedroom, or where they grew up becoming really good in a stage where people were throwing bras and panties and drinking and fighting. And, obviously it's not for everybody, but I grew up in Derry City, where I'm from, is no walk in the park. And it's the same deal in my hometown. I mean, we didn't have that size or equation of a club, but if you were shit, they told you, and you got pulled off the stage pretty fast. And as a musician, I loved cutting my teeth in that kind of rug. Like, that's what it's all about. I really am glad that I earned my stripes there,
There's I tell you, it's interesting you say that. That's so true. And I feel like what's interesting about your country and kind of the area that I grew up in is that, they're very real. They're very down to earth. They're very salt of the earth people. And, if they told you that you needed another fucking job doing something else,
you probably do.
Then if that could better their area, if they thought that you were going to be a better welder, then they would tell you to go fucking weld. You know what I mean? And that's kind of the way that, that same, your place is the same. I mean, if I wasn't able to cut my teeth in the clubs and couldn't get more work, and people weren't responding to what I was doing, then I would be doing something else. And I think that's where you and I are in the same boat.
Yeah, 100%, man. Speaking of boats, you been doing any fishing down there?
I went cobia fishing about 3 weeks ago. Some of my favorite fishing in the world. I haven't done it. I haven't had time to do it. Springtime, obviously, because you're a touring musician. Springtime is where, everybody kind of kicks things off. We go out on the road. We never got an opportunity to do that. So I got the opportunity to cobia fish, and I put my buddy on his first cobia, and I just forgot how much I love fishing, and fishing's obviously big down here. You get a lot of brackish water from Mobile Bay. There's a lot of red snapper season just started. You only get 2 per person, which is interesting because way back in the day, you could catch as many snapper as you wanted to, but the BP oil spill changed a lot of the dynamic of the fishing, I think, in the Gulf of Mexico. So you only allowed to get 2. So yeah, a lot of boats, lots of boating around here. Destin is close. 30A is close. It's it's just a really, where I grew up here. I grew up coming to the beach here. My grandmother lived here for a long time. On this end of the beach, Orange Beach and Gulf Shores area, you get a lot of places to boat. So there's a lot of restaurants. You get out on the water and you can zoom across the bay, and but Destin's a little bit more harbor oriented. But it's right now, I mean, I'm blessed to be down here because I know there's a lot of people that that aren't able to get to water. But I would tell anybody this, and not just I would say that if as soon as I looked at water going through all of this, it helped. Whether that was whether that's like a local lake, a local fishing lake, just sitting out by a pond. The water, in my opinion, I mean, it really kind of changed my dynamic.
Yeah, man. I mean, I've said that. I remember my dad saying to me when I was a kid, he was like, we grew up fishing. My father worked on salmon boats. His uncles worked on salmon boats all locally here on the island where we have the studio right here. And like, if the salt water gets into your blood, or if like that kind of nature and water gets into your blood, you're screwed. That's never going to leave. And you're always going to have that draw to it no matter what. I get lost. I get lost without it. Like in the morning, I say, right now, I just took my boat there now and got it fueled up. My dad and I are headed out at 5 a.m. in the morning.
Really? What are you catching?
It's pretty early here. We get loads of rockfish, so like whitefish, like pollock, glashing, cod, really good mackerel. The mackerel here are different to the mackerel you get like in Florida and Alabama and that kind of area. The mackerel here are really small. They aren't like those big Spanish mackerel. And when they come in the shoals, man, I mean, the fishing for them's fun. You catch like 5 at a time with feathers. We just use tiny feathers on a hook. But the eating of them is off the charts. I mean, you could fry them up for breakfast, dinner, lunch. You couldn't eat better, and they're so good for you. You know, because they're small fish too. They haven't got much mercury and all that nasty shit in them. But if you know where to go here, like our island where we are right now, Inch Island, where the studio is here and where our venue is, there's a road on and off the island, but it's in what we would call a lock. So it's kind of like an inlet. So if I go full speed in the boat for like 45 minutes, an hour on a calm day, we're out in the open ocean. We're out in the North Atlantic, you know. So
Wow.
it's pretty. It's really pretty here where we are. Same deal here too. In the summertime, you're saying there's places they go. Like there's Rathmullins just across the water from me here, which is a town with a beautiful biggest country estate, and they do their own brewery there. And there's like 4 or 5 towns that you can just pull up to for the night, and it's free to park, and the
Yeah, you
fishing's
would
good.
never, you wouldn't think that. Like I wouldn't have thought that in Ireland. Like just being from here, I wouldn't think that. I would just figure it was coastal. I didn't realize that it was also intercoastal too. Like you could go to different places. That's really cool to know. That's something I didn't.
Yeah,
I didn't
well, you
realize.
look at our county Donegal, which is the northwest. I mean, out of all the counties in Ireland, we're not a big county, but there's more beaches in this tiny county than there is days in the year. So you could be at a different beach every day, and you still wouldn't be finished throughout the year.
Wow.
Our headland is so craggy and rocky, and inlets and estuaries, and like it's not like California where you get big long beaches. Like that just doesn't exist here. It's more like big surf.
Have you been writing and playing a little bit?
Writing a lot, actually. Very, very surprisingly, writing a lot easier than what I've been writing the past few years. Writing more in the sense that how I felt I used to write when I was younger. I don't know. Like, and I don't know if you know what I mean. Like when I wrote when I was younger, I used to write songs because shit, this feels good, and that line rhymes with that line, and oh fuck, there's a song. And it's just been happening like that. Whereas whenever I moved to LA, and you know the deal, man, going to Nashville and LA, it's like this pressure on you. You have to write a good song. Oh, Jesus, I hope this is a good song. Whereas I have an album in the can right now that I recorded with Brett Denon and Austin Jenkins. And we recorded it here in the studio. It's done.
Did they enjoy? Had Brett ever come over there before?
Brett, I think he had been to like Ireland, like passed through it once. But they had a ball, man. I mean, the setup we have here with the cabins and stuff, and you can stay in the cabins, and we have a full Irish pub, Guinness taps, beer taps,
Wow.
open fire.
That sounds like an amazing place to come and record music.
Dude, I would love to have you anytime. Like if you're going to hire a studio that isn't in your hometown and you aren't staying in your home, and you want to go somewhere that you could really hang out. And we're on the tiny island. I've got the boat. We've got the cabins. There's a full pub here. And we have catering and all these outdoor areas that you can hang out. I mean, you know yourself, Taylor, most studios, the only place you can walk outside is like their porch unless they have a cigarette at the most. You know, there's no escaping being
in the parking
in the room.
lot.
You know what I mean? So that's the beauty of this place here. But yeah, the boys had a blast, and we had 1 or 2 nights away. We went, like, there's a few local towns around here where we booked the B&B, and we went and got trashed and drank all day and all night and came back here to the studio. I have a house engineer in here, and he stayed and done all the tidying up around the studio whilst we had fun, man. It was funny. The 3 of us played everything on the record, and I'm really excited to get it released. There's only 1 cover song on the record. The rest is all original music. And Austin, and I mean, you should check out Austin. Austin plays in a band called White Denim, and he won the Grammy last year for Leon Bridges. He produced and writes all the Leon Bridges songs and stuff like that. And he's a super big Texan boy, you know, the big belt buckle and the high shirt. And like when you see him walking in the bars here, he's like 6'5" with a big, like, every crease down the front of his jeans. He's like, ma'am, sir, ma'am. And you can see everybody in the local pubs here like, where the fuck did this guy come from?
That's awesome.
Yeah, man, it was good. So I don't know, maybe it's just because I have an album in the can right now. I've just been writing very free and willingly, and it's been nice. I've been coming up with lots of good music, so I'm stoked. I mean, what about you? Are you writing much? Are you playing much? Or
it's funny, it's funny when you have something in the can. You don't have that pressure to try to deliver something big. You know, I mean, you've already put all the work and time in, and now, it's free. I haven't really, I've been, I've had a lot of work in June cancel on me or get moved. I was supposed to do a Middle Eastern tour. I was supposed to go to the Middle East and do a military tour, but that got moved to hopefully fall or next spring. And I've been doing a little bit of virtual stuff. I have got some shows that are still. I've got one show in Birmingham, Alabama, that is still on the books.
When's that?
It's July 17th. I'm doing the Allman Brothers. When I do Birmingham, I'll do like an Allman Brothers. I'll do kind of like some kind of tribute show or something. But I've got a record in the can, and I just, obviously with everybody, it's like when everything gets back to normal and you can actually go to those people, and really, touch them, play to them, high five them. I mean, that's you want to give your album the best opportunity it can.
Yeah.
And hopefully that'll, happen for both of us,
Yeah, man, I'm the same. I mean, I want to have it finished, but I know there's not a whole lot. We've done the hard work, which was getting into the studio and laying everything down, And even my engineer, I can't even have my engineer come around to the studio by law in Ireland right now. The laws are so different to the States. Yeah, I mean, I'm not allowed to have him here.
So how far behind do you think Ireland is comparatively to the USA in the pandemic?
Well, or arguably, how far ahead is Ireland than America?
Right.
It all depends how we look at it. Who knows? But the way Ireland done it was, I have to credit them. Everybody's got their naysayers, and I don't agree with everything here that the government does. But I have to hand it to them, man. They handled it better than most. I think they were the top 2 countries in all of Europe. They have the lowest death tolls. I don't know, most people who would think of listening to this who don't know Ireland be like, but Ireland's just countryside, and it's not true. I mean, Ireland, we've 7 million people, give or take, I think, live here. And some of the bigger cities like Dublin has millions of people, like 3 or 4 million people living in it. And what Ireland done was they closed the doors way early. They told everybody to go home, close schools early, and they haven't just went, we're opening it back up. What Ireland has done is they're gradually opening it up. Even though we're only, I think we're under 0.5% now of the amount of people who actually are contracting the virus.
Wow.
Like in Northern Ireland alone, I think it's single digits. But at that insane, so I think they're just being super cautious here. They're not going to rush it. With us here in the wedding venue in the studio, I think we're not allowed to have people in here until the 20th of July. I can only start taking bookings for the 20th of July, so it's still like another 2 months to go yet. But I have to hand it to them. It worked. So.
That's all that matters. I mean, this country, for me, I tried to do my part. I wear masks to the grocery stores. I try to keep everything clean, wipe everything down. I don't take any chances. Do I quarantine myself in my home? No. I mean, I've gone and actually sat in with some musicians that were playing on the Alabama side. Their restaurants are open at 50% capacity. And so they asked me to come over and play, and I hadn't played with them in a long time. And so we took the boat over there, and, there were people, drinking and having a good time, and a little bit spaced out, but a little bit not, I mean, I think the way that this has happened is that, like, for people in Alabama and on the panhandle here, just seeing it, because I've been here for like the last 3 weeks, it's just kind of been really gradual. It's kind of been a gradual build of people. Does it work? Will we see a spike in cases? Yes, probably. Is it worth, does it warrant, a government shutdown and for people to lose more jobs? And, I don't know if that's the case, here, because, I mean, it's, you have people's livelihoods. And I mean, I have, a house, I have homes that I rent to people, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm basically a landlord,
Mm-hmm.
and I have try to do everything in my power to, sorry about that, to try to do everything in my power to, you know, forgive as much as I can, you know, because
Yeah,
I
of course.
understand that these people are, you know, everybody's having a tough time. But, you know, and just the little businesses, and obviously the barbecue restaurant that I own up in Birmingham and stuff. I mean, you know, if the health department says it's okay, then you follow the guidelines and you hope for the best, you know. And
I
I
mean,
think that's
I'm the same. You know, I'm all for it. I'm the same as you. Whatever. At the end of the day, we can only go by what fucking scientists say. I'm not a scientist. You're not a scientist. We're not mathematicians. You know what I mean?
We're
So we can only go on.
musicians.
We're musicians, baby. I didn't know you had a barbecue joint. We're in Birmingham.
Yeah, in Birmingham. Yeah, it's called Saul's Barbecue. SAWS.
Amazing. How long have you had that?
I've been in the restaurant business for about right about 10 years now.
What? You're a dark horse. You never told me that. So I've seen you wearing that hat, but I didn't know it was your company.
Yeah. So we've got 4 locations in Birmingham. We've got a food truck. We have the juke joint that I'm a part of. Is a great. It's a live music. It's kind of like what would be the equivalent of what would be one of your favorite haunts there where you're at. You know, it's got live music. It's got food. You know, we got a couple of really great dishes we got one dish called pork and greens, which is cheese grits, turnip greens, pulled pork, Alabama white barbecue sauce, red barbecue sauce topped with onion rings.
Yeah.
And then we have a sweet tea fried chicken sandwich, which I love. It's one of my favorites. So we brine our chicken in sweet tea and pickle juice. And then we deep fry it, and we put Alabama white barbecue sauce over it. So
What's Alabama? I've never heard of that. Alabama white bar. I've never heard of that. What's that?
So Alabama white barbecue sauce is a vinegar and mayonnaise and cider based white barbecue sauce. Put a little cayenne pepper on it. It's amazing with chicken. There's a barbecue joint up in North Alabama called Big Bob Gibson's barbecue, and he invented it. And he would slap it all over barbecue chicken. So it just kind of caught on, Alabama white barbecue sauce. So
dude, I have to tell you about the one time. Well, not one time, but one time I was doing a house concert tour. And the people who done the show for me, I actually know them. If you hear this, you guys know what happened this day. It was pretty funny. And I was doing a house concert tour, and it was in Mobile, Alabama. And the guy was like, "Oh, I've got a venue, and you can come and do your concert at our venue." And these shows were all basically sold out, 50 seats every night. And what we were doing is I toured all of America. We done 40 shows in people's houses, 50 tickets. We supplied the booze. We basically I bought a 3-piece band, a PA system, and a party to people's houses all across America and sold it out. And people fucking loved it. It was so much fun. So much fun, but way too much work for us guys. You would need an extra 5 people to set it up every day. But this guy in Mobile, Alabama, we rocked up. And I was driving through this super it just if you weren't for those of you out there who picture this Alabama, that the way they would picture certain parts in a movie, that's where this was. We were driving through, and there was a church here and a church there and a church here and a church there and a church here. And then I pulled up and I was like, "Oh, it's a church. We're playing at a church." My tour manager was there, and my bass player, he's from Italy, and Peter, my piano player, was from Ireland. We're all sitting in the van. We're like, "Oh, it's a church. All right, whatever, sweet. Let's go and have a stage." And so we're loading the gear on, and it's like a tiny church. Say it held I don't know, 100 people tops, and I'm like, "This is a weird looking church. This is a strange church." And we're all doing our thing, and I looked, and the guy was like, "Oh, you guys can get changed out here out the back." So just left of the altar, I guess it is, not a stage, there was a room. Then I walked out, And on the door beside the room, my bass player was sitting there, and Vezio probably smoked a big massive joint just before we went in, so he was already freaking out the fact he was in a church, an atheist from Italy. And I looked at the wall and it said embalming room. It wasn't a fucking church, it was a crematorium. It was a crematorium. Man. And my bass player Vezio was like, "Is this a crematorium?" He's like, "I'm fucking out of here. Oh, fuck, that's it. I'm out. Keith, I'm out. I can't do this. I was like, "Bro, relax. It's okay. And sure enough.
You can check funeral home off your list.
Dude, I done a gig in a funeral home, and I know the people who set it up. They know me. Guys, you know I love you. Thank you so much for doing it, but it was funny. See the funny side in this. And I had people who bought tickets. They were walking in, and I could see their faces, and they were like, "This is a strange church." And it was a full-on funeral home, man. They had the crematorium was there, the embalming room was there. My bass player was freaking out so hard.
Yeah, especially if he smoked a joint. You know, I mean, you tell an atheist bass player that only A, he's in a church, B, he's high, and then C, you tell him it's not a church, it's a funeral home. I mean, that's pretty much the hat trick.
That was Mobile, Alabama. I'll never forget it. And we were there, like, trying to pretend it was all, like, normal.
You know, Mobile is where the first Mardi Gras ever happened.
Really? So it's not
it's not New Orleans.
New Orleans?
It's actually Mobile. Mobile held the first one. They throw some pretty big parties down there.
New Orleans, that's a crazy town.
Yeah. Haven't been to New Orleans in a while. I went down there for a quick day to do something for the musicians, the New Orleans Musicians Fund, which was, I think that was right after Katrina. Not Katrina, but a buddy of mine, Jojo Herman, who's in the band Widespread Panic. He puts on a really nice concert every other year and funds the Musicians Fund for all the musicians that were displaced, which is really great because there's a lot of musicians, in New Orleans that, still are a little bit displaced. There was a lot of musicians when Katrina happened that came up to this end of the beach and set up shop and started playing music and are still around. Kind of.
Yeah, man. I don't think people see how bad. I mean, I remember driving through that not long, like maybe a year or two after that, and fuck me, it was still bad. Like they get hurt so hard, and you didn't really see much redemption for them. They were like that for quite a long time, man.
That city has I think it should be one of the most protected cities in our country, my country, in our country, and I think. I do feel like it's probably one of the most diverse cities in America.
100%. It's got the most heritage. Must be one of the, like, growing up here in Ireland, like this house, this building I'm running right now is 200 years old, and that's not even old. You know what I mean? My uncle used to own a bar in Derry City, and it's been serving beer for 700 years, and that's not even old. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then, like, you look at America. I'm not knocking America. I love America. I have a different perspective. I'm an American too. I genuinely love America. It's an amazing country. I love Ireland, but America is a country that I've never seen. If you're willing to go out there and go for it, it's a country that gives you more opportunity than anywhere else on the planet I've ever come across. But in saying that, it's a very new country, and when it comes to culture and heritage and things like that, there are not that many pockets that are like New Orleans or like, Philly's an old town, New Orleans, like that has their own thing. There's so much of America when you drive through it. It's just a McDonald's sign. It is just a truck stop, when it's all the same stores, the generic town look that they all have. And you're right, towns like New Orleans, they should 100% putting that in a glass case, because that's what gives them their stamp, gives America its stamp.
And the food's
off the charts, man. I've had so many good nights in that town, like crazy good nights after doing shows. And I mean, it really is a magical place. I can't remember. We played in the main theater there one time. We were the first people to play in it after Hurricane Katrina.
Wow.
We were the very first band that was allowed back in. Well, not allowed back in. The place was like, you want to see, they showed us around where the water line was. You could still see it in the walls and stuff. I mean, it was pretty fucking crazy.
You know, you know, if you don't, everybody kind of flies in and goes and hangs out down there for 2 or 3 days. But I mean, it takes a good, couple of trips back, and it takes a good week or so down there to just realize just how much of a floodplain the city's in. I mean, it's truly a city that's, it's amazing that it's not already, has not been already underwater at some point, I mean, and it's just, I hope and pray that city is protected by, I hope in my lifetime and many more that a hurricane is spared. But, down here, I mean, it's, you get, that's what you play with, that's kind of the disaster you play with down here,
So you were in Nashville? Funny, Brett was in Nashville too whenever that hurricane, was your house hit?
So I actually went through the tornado. I went downstairs and got into the crawl space and literally I saw the tornado going to my crawl space, but I actually heard the tornado go through in my crawl space.
Fuck.
So my family went through a tornado in Center Point, Alabama in 1973. And so I've been hearing about tornadoes for a long time in my family. And a hilarious story. My dad and I talk about tornadoes a lot. I talk about tornadoes. And I called my dad right after I climbed. I mean, my roof was torn up pretty good. Maybe not even 100 yards from me, there were houses that were just demolished. A lot of old buildings. And I was walking down the street, and I called my dad at 2:30. It happened about 1 o'clock in the morning, and then I called my dad about 2:15 just to let him know that if he got up, that I was okay, because it was the neighborhood. It would probably have be on the news and stuff. And I actually didn't think that I would get him, but I called him and I was like, I went through it. I find, you're not gonna believe this. I went through the tornado, and you know what he said? He said, "Where'd the plane crash?" It's like, I'll talk to you in the morning, Dad.
You're like, what?
You're not gonna believe this, man. I just went through a tornado. I went through a tornado, Dad. Oh God, where did the plane crash? It's like,
your dad sounds like a good time.
I was like, well, fuck that. I guess he'll figure it out in the morning, I woke him straight out of bed from a slumber, and he was like, he couldn't understand it, because nobody, he doesn't get calls like that at night. And fortunately, this one was a good one, because, I was okay. But he was like, where did the plane crash? I was like, sleep tight, Dad. We'll talk to you in the morning.
Hey, your band that you play with, so is your band, like, are they all session players? Is it the same guys you've had for a minute, or?
It depends.
Like your band, say you're doing that thing in Birmingham, like where you do the Allman Brothers. Is that a band you use locally, or?
I'll use local talent. Yeah, I'll use the local band. There's kind of a core group of guys that go with me to different places when I play. Brian Less is one of them. He's a musician. He's been playing piano for me forever. Johnny Kulnich is a guitar player that's played with me. Just depending on what the gig is, obviously depends on, what the budget is, and how many players. But on that gig in July in Birmingham, you know, there'll probably be 7 or 8 players on stage. You know, so it'll be kind of a big band, you know. But like when I go do, you know, I'll go do a weekend of acoustic dates. It'll be just me and Johnny, you know, and which I'm ready to take a band out on the road. You know, I mean, I get booked sometimes, like I do corporate, you know, obviously some corporate events and stuff where I get to put the band together. But it's been quite some time since I've actually put a band on the road and you know, and been in one unit going down the road playing different shows. I mean, my career fortunately has been able to spin off into some different directions other than just music. But I'm looking forward for this record, hopefully, to be able for me to put a band or, you know, together and to really do an extensive tour. You know,
is the record recorded in Nashville?
The record was recorded at Southern Ground, which was Zach Brown's place in Nashville. It took over a year to do. It's got Robert Randolph play. I wanted it to sound like an old Jackson Browne record.
Amazing.
You know, I mean, but more like the Southern Jackson Browne. You know, like he's kind of a California kind of guy. But as far as like the music, David Lindley was one of my favorite, you know, guitar players on his records. And obviously he was a slide player. So I got Robert Randolph to play most of the slide work on the record, which he, you know, obviously is one of my favorite guitar players from a tonality perspective. But I needed that on this record. So
who produced it?
So I produced it, and there's a guy named Brian Sutton. Brian Sutton is a bluegrass guy. Really, really, really talented bluegrass and guitarist and producer, writer. He kind of helped me assemble the musicians, and then he and I kind of, you know, produced a little bit of the record. He kind of just handed me the record. You know, he kind of we got together with our Nashville musicians, and then he was like, here's the pool, here's the paint brushes, you know, now you go do the painting, you know. So that's kind of what his role is. So I kind of took over for EP, and I mean, now because of this pandemic, I feel like it's like I'm getting drugged back into the studio to like mix some more of the record.
Yeah, don't do it. Don't do it.
No, I don't. No, it needs to be mastered, and then it needs to be put out. But you know, a lot of people have been asking me like, where, when, why aren't you putting it out? Why aren't you putting it out? But you know, for me, I have to, you know, I like to have a vehicle to put music out on. You know?
Me too. I'm the same too, man. I'm exactly the same. I broke like it took me a long time. It took me nearly the gutsy 2 years to write that record I just done, and it took me nearly a year to get Austin, Brett, and myself at a time where we could take 2-3 weeks and go into a studio in Ireland and record. So like 3 years of work. I'm not just going to bang it out there, you know, and just post it online and go, hey, here's my record. You know what? Fuck that. It deserves more. Your album deserves. Everybody's album deserves more than that. I'm the same. I want to go on tour. I want to have a big badass tour lined up around the record, and then hit it hard.
Will you do some dates with Brett?
Yeah, probably. Cool. I mean, we talked about it.
I think you guys would be great together, man. I can totally see that.
Yeah, probably. I would love to go on tour. It's funny, I've never really done support or a tour with anyone. I've always just been so hectic doing it on my own. But the irony of this pandemic is my plan was actually to come home this June this year, and I wasn't going to tour for the rest of the year anyway. So it's a silver lining in the cloud. I was going to come home and just work from home and do a bit of writing and just get by and do whatever I could. I was actually going to start a podcast way before the pandemic even started. So I don't know, man. I'm probably going to want to take a band out myself on my next tour, same as yourself. But again, I don't know when that's going to be. You know, I really don't. I don't know. When do you think?
I don't know. I would say, I mean, I had some dates moved to fall, but I think more than likely, like truly for the whole country and just people getting back to normal and wanting to go see live music and feeling good about seeing live music, I don't think that that's going to happen until 2021. I mean, I think we get this year over with, get it in the can, just dismiss the year. Hopefully, lives can be saved and we can get back to normal and people can go see live music and be close to each other, like down here in the South, people hug each other, man.
I mean, I get it. You know yourself, there's nothing better going to a gig and having everybody in the room and the atmosphere in the room. That to me is just like that's just as important as having the music. You know what I mean? If you haven't got that, it sucks. Like it does suck. Same deal. Like I'm supposedly going out in October. The shows that I had booked for March were rescheduled for October. But then again, due to the rules of the spacing out of people in the venues, like some of the smaller listening rooms, say 100 or 200 seater, they're basically like 100 seater now is down to like 35 people. So how do you
make money?
You can't. It's not even making money. You couldn't even go on the road and break even if you're only selling 30 tickets. You know what I'm saying? So I'm the same man as you. I'm supposed to be going out in October. For anybody listening, I am full ready to go out in October if it's all cool and ready to go out. But next year, I feel like next year is going to be a good year. I'm going to wait until like maybe March or April next year before I decide to go out again,
Yeah, and I have to be a little bit better virtually. I think I'm getting more comfortable being in the virtual space than the live space,
It's weird. It is weird. I mean, I've done my 40th show on Sunday. I've been doing them for years, so I'm kind of used to it.
By the way. That's, doing those things it's not easy.
No, they're not easy.
You should be commended.
They're not easy, man. To be honest, I say it to Kelsey. See, every time I do one of those staged shows, I finish them exhausted in comparison to how I finish a regular show. Because when you're doing it, man, like you've got all the comments running down the page here in front of you and you're like reading that. And in between, you have to pretend like someone cheered for you, and I don't know if anybody hasn't been on stage. Cheering feels good. It gives you the energy to go, fuck, they're really getting into this. They're really, and you're sitting trying to put your heart and soul into like just a blank black screen. And you finish the song and it's like, oh shit, I don't know, did they like it?
Literally.
Literally, like it's the strangest thing. Like it really is. And I literally have been walking off the virtual stage exhausted, way more tired than what I do a regular show. You got to get on, man. You got to get on stage it. Why haven't you done stage it?
Well, yeah, I've been approached by stage it. I just, it just hasn't. I hadn't fallen into place. I don't. I wait for the right, obviously the right opportunity, to come along and make sure that it's the right thing. As we move further into this world, obviously, as someone that's working in this business, you have to go with it. It doesn't go with you, So, my goal is to get a little bit more virtually accomplished and then hopefully see what happens,
Yeah, man, that's it. You just have to roll the punches. Who knows where it's going to end up? I know you have to go. So tell me this and tell me no more. What have you got going on? Anything you want to punt? Anything that's coming on the television? Anything that's getting released?
The food and travel series is actually still on Amazon Prime, State Plate.
Okay.
We've got that. We moved that over to Amazon Prime. And, just be looking for tour dates. I pop up, who knows? I had a lot going on in June. I got a couple shows in July, but obviously TaylorHicks.com, my website's got all the information, Instagram, and I'm on TikTok, but I haven't decided what I'm going to do yet. But it's going to be good. I just hadn't figured it out. I've been on TikTok. My buddies got me on TikTok, but like I'm verified on TikTok. But like
Taylor, you have to come here to Ireland and do a tour on Ireland, man. You're huge here. Everybody knows who you are. Come here and I'll do a tour with you, and my band are a killer set of players.
Done.
Dude, it would be so much fun. You'd fucking love it.
Hey, I'm serious. I'm not joking. Like, listen, my gigs went to shit in June. So as soon as this country is allowed to fly, I'm out of here.
Dude, seriously, and I luckily have become really good friends with like 3 or 4 of the main venues in the main cities in the west coast of Ireland. And like when we go there, you're like treated like royalty, you know, and they're all really good rooms, big rooms and or whatever. You know, my band are shit hot. I mean, the guys I tour with are Chrissy Hines' band from the Pretenders. Chrissy used to tour with them all the time, and they're the best guys. They love to party and they love to play music, and they're shit hot players. All right, done. I'll get an Irish tour on the books. I'll let you know.
Dude, please.
Well, Taylor, thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it, my friend. I hope you stay safe out there in the big old bad world. And I hope we get to play some music on a desert island somewhere very soon.
Hey, we will, buddy. Hey, all the best to you and your family, and keep rocking and keep doing those shows. And I'll talk to you real soon, bud.
All right, man. Peace out. Thank you.
Well, everybody, there you have it. My friend Taylor Hicks. Taylor Hicks, as you can see, is an absolute sweetheart of a person. Please check out all Taylor's music. As he said, he's got an album coming out next year. He tours a lot across the States. I'd love to play with the show with him one time. You never know. Put the pressure on him, and I'll get him out to Ireland for a tour. If you guys want to see that out here, I'm pretty sure Taylor would do very well here in Ireland. Again, if you're enjoying these podcasts, please check out my Patreon page, patreon.com/listen to Keith Harkin. Shout out to my Patreon community. Shout out to everyone out there. I hope you're all staying safe. I love you all. Click subscribe. See you soon.